Well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to present Alta Copper. Over the next 15 minutes, I will provide information that will provide you with a better understanding of the company. As you can see by the material on the front page, it's a very advanced copper project located in Peru. And, the next step clearly for us is to advance it appropriately to further drilling to show how much larger it potentially will become, but also the primary objective in the next 3 years is to get it fully permitted so we can start in on construction of what will be a very, very large, economically robust project. And in view of the limited time of only 15 minutes, I will selectively turn to certain slides. So I've turned to slide 3, and as you can see, question being, why would you invest in Alta Copper? Well, the most important aspect of this is it's a project that's one of the largest undeveloped copper deposits, not held by a major. If you look at the breakdown on the resource, it shows you the amount of copper, gold, and silver. It's got a significant gold and silver endowment. If you were looking at a copper gold equivalent number, that's over 16 billion pounds of copper. So a very, very big system, last drilled in 2013. So there's much more upside that will go with it. It is a project that has been relatively inactive. That is changing. And you'll see us with community support, hopefully starting our drill program at some point in Q3. We've already got our drill permit approved by the Ministry of Energy and Mines, the DIA, which is if you will, almost an environmental statement, as well as a proposed drill permit for up to 43,000 meters of drilling over 40 drill platforms. We've put out advanced engineering studies on this. So again, it's not an early stage project, which is why I'm very attracted to it. I initially became an investor, and over the course of the last couple of years, advanced from being a director to chairman to now executive chairman and chief executive officer. The net present value, and I'll show you a slide on that, at 450 copper, comes in at over $3.2 billion after tax. So very, very robust, big system. Will produce in the first 10 years 150,000 tonnes of copper per annum, plus every 25-cent increase in the price of copper increases the net present value by $425 million. So it is a project that interested me first as an investor, and that's how I initially got involved. But when I looked at the size of the project and the amount of copper it could produce, and the fact that there was so much more upside to the project in terms of adding more resource and tonnage, it will prove, I think, to be a very attractive investment to many. It's a very short timeline to construction. So many copper projects worldwide are at the very least 10 to 20 years away. I would say more closer to 15 to 20 years away. This one isn't because of all the work that's been done. It is a project that's been in existence since 2003. So there's much work that's gone into it. The company, when copper prices fell below $2 per pound copper, went into an inactive period. That changed a couple of years ago. So we're changing what we do. We're changing how we do it. Unfortunately, we had a drill permit that expired in 2019. So we wanted to resume drilling. So we made an application in 2023. As noted, have gotten that approved by the Ministry of Energy and Mines. The next step for us is to coordinate with the community, and at this stage, we feel it's very likely that we'll get that in the coming months. A majority of the community is very supportive, and that's the key driver on any social license community agreement. Third-party validation. You've got analyst coverage. You've also got Whittle Consulting, a big engineering firm out of Australia that is a big investor. But more importantly, the best validation of any mining project is having a big, large mining company as one of your big investors, and Fortescue Metals is a $50 billion company, and they own approximately 33%. We're also included in many studies as one of the top 10 M&A acquisitions for a major. That in itself, I think, speaks volumes. People should pay attention to that. It is a project of size and magnitude, so from our perspective, it's really about advancing it, de-risking it, moving forward with the various permits we need, and then ultimately entertaining various offers from large companies. Clearly, with Fortescue Metals already showing a significant interest, they're very much a likely candidate to be one of those groups that looks at acquiring this company and project at a significant valuation well above what we currently trade. Short-term catalyst. That economic study, which was very advanced, prepared by Asenco Engineering, who does many, many projects in South America, did the construction management on Constancia, which is the project Hudbay owns, also did the Safranel feasibility study that has been recently approved by Synopsys. Noted earlier drill permit, ESIA approved in October, shortly after myself stepping in as a chief executive officer. Now looking to get a start of exploration activities and community agreement, and that is advancing on schedule. So how do we create value? The economics, I believe, speak for themselves. Starting exploration drilling simply shows how much bigger this project will be, and really moving towards and drilling various drill targets that look very attractive. One of the few copper developers out there worldwide that can be advanced in a short period of time. And this slide, I think, shows that very clearly. You know, typically early stage copper developers or exploration companies take up to 20 years. We're arguably at the end of that timeline. We're probably in the 15 to 16 year timeline period already. To replicate this project would take arguably close to 15 years, would cost $125 to $150 million US. So it's a very compelling opportunity for many. Our capitalization, very modest, 45 million, but key point on this slide is showing Fortescue at that 33, approximately 34% ownership level. So again, $50 billion company. They've been invested since 2019. They've done extensive due diligence. There's no better validation on a project than a major mining company like Fortescue. They very much want copper. They're an iron ore company, and they are very much focused on this company. They have 2 board of directors of 5, both very significant individuals within their organization. On the preliminary economic assessment, without fail, and why I was initially attracted to it years back as an investor, it can make money at below $4 copper, which is significant. And obviously with the tariffs that have come into play, there's uncertainty currently. Copper will trade in a range, and it's currently in the 420 to 440 range. However, if we looked at $4 copper, you can see that at $4 copper, we create an NPV after tax of $2.3 billion. Most significantly, it's more about the amount of cash flow and the payback. So it is a big, big project that requires a major with the team to build it and the balance sheet to support the capital. But yet again, and I do need to say this, very few projects like this exist. If you look at benchmarking, which is something that people should look at, how do we match up on a PNAV perspective, our net asset value versus our price? And you can see that we're at the low end of the curve. And there's many other projects out here on this slide that in certain cases pale by comparison. However, I'm not suggesting that we can get to a 0.74 PNAV, but I'm very confident in saying that as we move forward with the community, as we move forward, advancing it, de-risking it, that you'll see the valuation change dramatically over the next number of months. I want to go back to slide 8, if I could. This simply compares our project to many other projects out there. As you can see, our valuation is at the low end of the curve. Again, it's because the project was inactive. The founder of the company, after 23 years, stepped away and retired last year. Did a fantastic job with the resource. I have a very different approach in terms of how you advance projects to permits, how do you advance projects with the community, how do you demonstrate that you're a responsible community stakeholder. But when you look at our numbers and you look at the amount of copper it produces, at what price, $1.82 per pound copper, $1.92 all in, you can see that it matches up very, very nicely with many, many other projects. There's one other copper project, in fact, 2 other copper projects I've been involved with. I've been in mining for plus 35 years. Precious metals, Total Competitive Petrol, Getty Resources, big companies. Started my own company in 2005 called Nevada Copper. Did very, very well for many, many investors. That grew from 30 million market cap to 600 million. As copper prices reduced, I eventually retired from it. In 2018, another group came in and acquired plus 50% of the company. So it was an opportune time for me to step away. Retired for a brief period of time. Stepped in another company called Faraday, was the chairman of that company till 2022. I acquired this asset, Copper Creek, but what it really did for me is it allowed me to step into Alta Copper in a more significant way. I think when you look at many of these projects on this slide, Alta Copper, Caniarco is without a doubt a very significant project, and it has nothing but upside. A couple other slides just in terms of, hey, our net present value versus total CapEx. Every one of these slides will show you that we're at the right end of the curve from a capital intensity perspective, as well as from an NPV, net present value perspective. So when you look at projects, you should look at total capital to build it, but also sustaining capital to continue on with the profile. Many of these subsequent slides, capital intensity, for the amount of capital to invest, do you get a good return? Does it generate value for you? Without a doubt, it does. Again, as you can see, we're at the right end of this graph, and we are throughout the next several slides. And this is based on today information, very current, very updated. Challenge on this project, inactive for 8 years, had some challenges with respects to people truly understanding the magnitude of the project. That's why we put out that advanced engineering study called a preliminary economic assessment. Jump ahead a little bit here in terms of mine life. We're already at a 27-year mine life. The key point on this slide is if you compare this project to many projects worldwide, the first 2 projects I was involved with, the first one had 450,000 meters of drilling. The second one in Faraday, Copper Creek, had approximately 300,000 meters of drilling. Our projects only had 85,000 meters. Very successful. If anything, what they should have done is they should have continued to drill and not let their drill permit expire in 2019. But it already demonstrates a 27-year mine life. So that in itself is also very significant. So is there an ability to add a significant timeline to the mine life? There most definitely is. Is that going to make a big difference from a valuation perspective? By all means. You look at the location of the asset. We're a 7-hour drive outside of Chiclayo. We've got good infrastructure in place. In terms of good infrastructure, low power costs, we've got port facilities that we can ship our copper concentrate to. The intent for us would be to build a road to the Pan American Highway, which is 24 kilometers away. So once we do that, limited disturbance, if any, to the community. We're not going to relocate the community. We're not going to displace them. We're not going to disrupt them. And I think, when you look at projects worldwide, that is a significant key feature. You look at Peru, again, I've been in this space for plus 35 years. Peru is one of the best places to be involved with. Surely there have been some challenges over the last number of years. I believe that's completely changing. And we currently have a Ministry of Energy and Mines that's very supportive. Peru as well, as many of you know, produces second largest copper producer in the world. So that in itself speaks to the benefits of mining in the country and why it's in everyone's best interest to advance projects such as this. It'll bolster the economy. It'll help the communities that you're involved with. And so, as we can see by this slide, there's several multi-billion-dollar projects. In terms of exploration, the resource last drilled in 2013, very advanced. Most of it's measured and indicated. That in itself means that we can move to feasibility study in short order. But the upside potential is what's key from my perspective. Caniarco Norte has had most of the drilling. Sura's only had 15 drill holes, and as you can see, 2.5 billion pounds of copper, 1.3 million ounces of silver, close to 18 million ounces of, 1.3 million ounces of gold and close to 18 million ounces of silver. So very significant in terms of what we could add to it. Verity's got the same geological signatures. And as you can see, yet to be drilled, but we do believe that there's a very exciting opportunity there with Cabrera de Verde. In terms of satellite image, this simply shows that we're not nearby any specific communities, so that just further supports my comment that we're not going to look at disturbing the community. We're going to work alongside of the community, also help them with the various initiatives that they have, other business opportunities, and be a responsible community member. One drill section before I finish the presentation. The history on the project was nothing but success by way of the drill bit. 32 out of 45 drill holes bottom in mineralization, so there's no reason to think that that's not going to extend at depth as well as laterally, but this is one section that cuts through the Morte deposit. The warm, hot colors represent grade. Key point as well as our strip ratio is so modest at 1.33 to 1 that the margins that we create, cash flow, is significant. As you can see in the 3 boxes at the very top of this slide, These are holes that all bottom in mineralization. The intent at the time was drill, step out, never drill beyond a certain depth. There was much that was left behind. However, the program under the previous CEO was extremely successful. So very effective as well when you consider the total drill footage of only 85,000 meters. Other slides that you can look at simply support the same thing. There's nothing but upside. So we're already at a 27-year mine life. There was a comment on the arsenic. It's a % life of mine arsenic. We have a saleable copper concentrate. There's also technology to deal with it. Other projects like La Granja has had over 400,000 meters of drilling, runs 4% arsenic life of mine. So when you put that in context, the historical messaging on this company was frankly incorrect. But that's what creates the opportunity for any investor that potentially does step in. Timeline, very focused on timeline. Again, we're not 20 years away from production. That is a key point. That is why you have a company like Fortescue Metals invested. That's why they've been very actively involved. And in fact, when you look at the leadership team, you look at our board of directors, you can see that we have one gentleman that's Peruvian, Robert McDonald, who's been extremely helpful with the various things that we're doing on the regulatory side, as well as the community, actively involved in our day-to-day decisions that we make at the community level. But you can see that we have 2 directors from Fortescue, Christine Nicola, who's in the corporate development area and has been with Fortescue for a number of years, as well as Andrew Hamilton, who's arguably one of their mine builders. I've visited with them in Perth, toured their project. Very impressive. He's there for the sole reason of monitoring the events and how we advance the project. So on that end, there's more information in the presentation materials. I hope that you do take some time, go to our website. But as you can see, it's a big project, produces a lot of copper. Infrastructure availability is a key focal point. We have water that exceeds our project requirements. Soft rock, so we can build a big project with 1 SAG mill, 2 ball mills. Strip ratio, as noted, relatively low power cost. And a port facility, which is very significant to us with a loadout facility in place already. So there's no need to construct a loadout bay. Other port facilities in closer range will be potentially built. That could be another opportunity for us as well. So thank you very much for taking the time today to listen to the presentation.